You're listening to Raising Anchor on 990 WBOB. Welcome to the Raising Anchor Soccer Show with Matt Entrican and Jason Carey. Your home for news, analysis, and everything Rhode Island FC. Each week, they take you inside the locker room, inside the tactics, and inside the storyline shaping RIFC. Now, here's Matt and Jason.
Rhode Island FC rallies from behind to draw in a significant 1-1 stalemate against the Tampa Bay Rowdies. Is this a positive result on the weekend, or is this a sign of something else for the Amber and Blue? We're going to talk about all of that and break down the game, as well as get you Coach Cano's thoughts, and of course, JJ Williams' thoughts and reflections on the goal that he scored for that 1-1 comeback and equalizer. But first and foremost, got to check in with the man, Mr. Jason Carey. How are you doing, sir?
Doing good. Pretty tired from a long Mother's Day weekend. 2 out of the 3 days there had good weather, Friday and Sunday were nice. Too bad Saturday wasn't.
I mean, maybe the soccer gods don't trump the mother gods. And, shout out to all the moms out there.
It's fair.
It is what it is. Listen, we're going to talk about the game here in a minute, but want to go through some of the other things going around. Want to give flowers and the shout out to Jason and Rob from the Morning Kick Around group. They obviously got to do their show on behalf of the Blackstone tourist community or consult group. Sorry, it's been a day, guys. But most importantly, though, they got to see the stadium. They got to see the USL ecosystem, kind of like really what it's talking about. They cover so much within their programming. And it was just good to see people putting spotlights on the stadium. Probably would have wished that it was a better weather day, to your point, because they were doing their preview game in the rain with, people huddling just to stay dry. So that probably wasn't the best version of what they wanted. But they said that they'd be back out at some point to continue to putting the spot on it.
They got the true New England Centerville Bank Stadium experience. So
first question they asked was, when is that awning coming online again? But so it's great to have them. It's great to be on the show last week. Highly encourage, if you don't watch them, follow along on their soccer journey as they cover all things within the greater soccer landscape. There's only a little bit of news, and we might as well just jump into this now because it'll be stale by the end of the week. Jason, USL, a little bit of a shakeup with the leadership at the top level. Alex Papadakis out now, and we've seen through the last couple of weeks the Papadakis family kind of taking on a secondary role, moving out of some of the direct leadership roles. Now, Paul McDonough, is at the helm for USL as both the CEO and president to take things alongside it. Papadakis moving on to a co-chairman role along with the gentleman who's running it from Bell Tower and their investment group. So it's a new era. Is this the right time to see a leadership change right before we're going into this pro rel? Like, do we think Paul McDonough had most of his fingers in the cookie jar when it came to all of these things coming to fruition, and this is just the bow on top?
I think this is kind of the tail end of a story we were talking about a little bit earlier with some kind of shakeup, and some of this having to do with maybe some investor groups not exactly 100% happy with the way that some of these USL announcements have been kind of popping up and just disappearing. So from what I've read, McDonough has been kind of already doing a lot of this work behind the scenes. So from what we're hearing, I don't expect too much to change just yet. So he's kind of already maybe had his hands in the cookie jar here. But I think with Pro Rel looming, it might be the right time. You don't want to wait too late because USL can't afford for this to not go off well for them.
Right. I mean, and to your point, he's been the president of the championship and USL since 2023, since before. He's been the only leader that we've known at that level. He's also been, I think they had the chief soccer officer was the other title. So it's interesting timing to see him elevate because he still remains in that kind of shot calling role. So I don't know if that's now making the room so that there'll be a new president leader coming into the championship side. And then, of course, there's Scholes coming in from the premier side when that gets activated. So maybe they're just putting all the pieces in place so that there's a complete leadership across the board here within USL. But it just was like, okay, I guess he's already been doing the job, so I guess we'll just give him one additional title there.
Yeah, might as well.
Well, we will see what happens with him in the future as this continues to unfold. But we're going to jump straight into the game now, and I want to start things off with your initial impressions. Obviously, we went as fans to go to the game, doing the look back, doing the watch back. Were your impressions different from the vibe check that you were at the stadium with versus what you saw when you watched the replay?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, it was, another cold, wet evening in Pawtucket. So I think going back and giving the game another fair watch, I think we did a lot better in the first half there than maybe I gave ourselves initially credit for it. Felt initially a little frustrated after the match. It felt maybe closer to points dropped as opposed to points gained, but there is a lot to take a look at here. Flowers too, second half substitute Nick Scardina here. He tallied his first USL championship assist as a substitute there. Rhode Island FC is just one of 3 teams to be able to take points from the Tampa Bay Rowdies this season. And in the last 4 games, we're still unbeaten against them if we don't go as far back to that first time we met up. And during that time, we've only given up 2 goals in that run against them. Overall, the series now between us and the Rowdies is 3 wins, 1 loss, and 1 tie versus Tampa Bay. This was actually also, if you look at the goals scored across those games, this was the lowest scoring match between these 2 teams.
Yeah, I think there was a collective of at least a guaranteed 3 goals.
Guaranteed 3 goals, yeah.
Right. And also, too, I didn't listen or I didn't realize until the broadcast version of me rewatching the game that the Tampa Bay Rowdies have been undefeated. They remain undefeated. The last loss that they were served was the 5-0 beating at Centerville Bank Stadium last year. So in a lot of ways, this was kind of one of those tests for them internally, too, to make sure that they moved past that probably really embarrassing defeat that occurred last year. Hadn't realized that they've been basically flawless since then. Interesting to see. And then you talk about, too, I didn't realize we had covered last week with Tampa how few a number of shots they had actually seen. But then you think about just the fact that we are one of only 3 teams now to have scored against them, considering the fact we're now going into week 11. That's not nothing either. There's a lot of conversation in the mailbag tonight about, was this a positive draw or was this a okay, thanks, we'll take the point. And I think that's got to be the big question here is do we allow ourselves to compare what the Tampa Bay Rowdies are versus what we know our team wants to be? So I'll ask you, I know this was a comeback, point. Sometimes those can feel like victories. Did that feel like a victory for you on the night then?
Not really. Like I said, it kind of felt, especially after watching a lot of the opportunities that we had in the first half, some of those felt a lot closer. Like you mentioned, being able to come back and claw back to get that point. This season so far, all the goals that Tampa Bay have given up are actually tying goals. So they've always been in the pole position to take control of the match, maybe just lost a little bit of a grip there. And this tie actually marks the first time that RFC's earned a result after conceding first since the 1-1 tie versus Birmingham FC last July 5th. So it's been a while for us to be able to kind of come back and do that. We tend to shoot ourselves in the foot and not be able to get back into matches sometimes.
Doors definitely get closed against this squad. Well, talking about the table itself, Jason, even though we got a point, not enough to really do anything for us on the weekend. Walk us through where we stand now in the table standings.
Yeah, so after that match, RAFC still here in 10th. Now on a 2-3-3 record on 9 points there and +1 goal difference. Maybe if we get a win there, can get ourselves to be balanced again there. If you take a look at the table, though, positions 3 through 7, all of those teams have 13 points. And then below them, a team with 12. It is still a wide open race here, especially as some of the teams we alluded to, Louisville kind of losing their touch there. Some of these teams are maybe not as consistent as one would think. 1 or 2 results can go a long way.
And I think that's the question that Kano and the team are going to have to start answering for themselves is who do they want to be tomorrow and who do they want to be, maybe by the World Cup break as well. But you're right. I mean, we could say, oh, if Tampa Bay just dropped the next 3 and we win our next 3, the way the standings could go, we could be in pole position at the front of the Eastern Conference. Obviously, that's a tall order to say to the team that has not even lost yet, go on and lose your next 3 games. But I am curious, you look at the table, you look at the breakout here. I don't think we saw the same parity that we saw last season, at least in the Eastern Conference.
Louisville and Charleston took all the points for themselves.
So then right now, because we are this tight still, how many points really have to start separating us? Like, when do we start? We always talked last season, when do we hit the panic button? Right now, with 2 wins, we're in potentially 4th place, right? When do we start saying that gap is getting too wide and we really need to have that oh no moment?
I think that's when it becomes more than just 2 wins, right? When you're looking at, we need 3, 4 results. And on top of that, you need other teams to be like giving up points. At this point, it seems like it's a little bit of a bloodbath. So if we can just put a few results together, we can kind of get ourselves back in shape, I think.
All right, well then let's get into how Coach Cano prepared for this match. A bit of a surprise here, not something I think we saw going into the weekend. Definitely predictions guaranteed to be wrong. Walk us through how that worked out.
Yeah, Cano made a few changes here. Koke Vegas started in it though. Frank Nodarce, Grant Stoneman, and Amadi Diop as that back 3. So we saw Grant Stoneman return to the defense there. Changing the pivot here too. Zach Harivo taking Clay Holstad's place there next to Ugo Bacharach. We have the attacking midfielders, if you will, here of Jose Quizero, Amos Shapiro-Thompson, and Aldair Sanchez. Amos there taking the spot for Pitti, with JJ and Leo up top as your forwards.
Want to give some flowers. Amos Shapiro-Thompson making his first start of the season after he's been working through injury. We also see Zach Harivo make his first regular season start of 2026, him working through his injuries, of course. But I think the big conversation here is we continue to talk about, we thought we knew what the best starting 11 of this squad was. On the night, we see 1, 2, 3 changes to the tactical lineup and decision. And surprising to, I think, you and I at least, and I hope the rest of the Rhode Island fandom, Clay Holstead and Karifa Yao on the bench, the 2 players with the most miles in the team. And that's also going up against a player like Koke Vegas. I did not have both Karifa Yao and Clay Holstead not on the pitch, at least not at the same time. I could have seen maybe one. Again, Karifa Yao, Bacharach probably didn't have the best game last week. Didn't think I'd see Stoneman in for Yao, and certainly didn't think Holstead didn't have a spot on this roster.
Yeah, I did not have that one on my bingo card either. Trying to think about what exactly it was. Maybe it partly has to do with the matchup. We saw recently that, Yao did struggle a little bit, I think, against there. And Demus, he got taken out there early. I think that speed was a bit of a problem. You're not going to, Yao's always going to win in the physical battle, but there are times if you can kind of turn him too quickly, or, you can get on the other side of him. But also, I mean, you mentioned the minutes and the mileage that these 2 players have had on him, and they've been with us since the beginning. Maybe Cano thought they needed just a bit of a rest there, because they've been playing almost every match, like when they're available.
It's just interesting that the game against one of the toughest teams in the league is the one that you decide this is where you're going to take a break. I mean, it's great to see the other players step up. Obviously, the draw wasn't what they wanted, but it could have gone a lot worse. Joe writing in the chat, there's other teams that would have loved to have drawn Tampa so far this season. Have to agree with that. Want to ask AST in the cam roll. We've been asking ourselves, where would he really fit into this DNA if he did get a starting role? I'm not surprised that it's in lieu of a Pitti Rodriguez start, but I also don't know if that's something we should anticipate always seeing. We saw the experimentation on the right side last year, maybe a double pivot with 2 more forward attacking midfielders, or 2 just more central midfielders. That made sense. But in a triangle with Amos Shapiro-Thompson at the top of it, is that something we should get used to?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, I'm glad to see him on the pitch, right? He works so hard, and I think that's one of the great qualities he has. He is incredibly tenacious. I think when I looked at that lineup, it kind of reminded me of what we maybe saw in the first season, where you had in that 3-5-2, you had that trio of midfielders where sometimes, one of them was maybe more attacking minded, but more often than not, it was Ibarra, Holstad, and Haribo. And all of them we know can put in the defensive dirty work, and they're all going to work hard. So I think it was to try and stifle maybe their midfield to a certain extent. And also, I just kind of still struggle to see where else on the field that you could really put him. I don't think he's a true out-and-out holding midfielder, but he's also not exactly a cam. He's kind of somewhere in between.
Well, I can't wait to figure out what Connor will pick for the next starting 11 when it comes to this weekend in Prinks Cup action. But we've got to go to break, and when we return, we'll break down our heroes and zeros of the match. We'll get through what Coach Connor thought on the match, and of course, get JJ Williams. Don't go anywhere. It's the Raising Anchor Soccer Show.
Thank you for listening to tonight's broadcast, powered by Sprout Coworking. For all your business needs, large or small, visit sproutcoworking.com. Powering 990 WBOB, that's sproutcoworking.com. Now, let's get back to the Raising Anchor Soccer Show on 990 WBOB with Matt Entrican and Jason Carey.
All right, Jason, getting into the second segment here. Want to start things off with the heroes and zeros of the match. Who did you have?
My hero is the blanket giveaway, because my zero is why does it rain at every Saturday game in Center of a Blank Stadium? Someone's got to get that weather machine turned on or something.
We talked to the stadium staff. We talked to some of the players. No one is happy about the amount of rain that we've experienced, specifically on match day. I suggested that we get all the fans to do an anti-rain dance on the pitch. You know, we've talked about the burn barrel to get the ghosts of whalers passed off of the stadium. Now it might be time to do, like, again, that inverted rain dance. Hopefully it doesn't cause a drought amongst the entire state, but like,
I mean, there's 7 days of the week. Just, it doesn't have to always be Saturday.
I think that's the frustrating thing too, is that like you get to Friday, great weather, you get to Saturday, terrible weather, and then you get to Sunday and it's pretty good weather again. And it's even worse when it's on Saturday and you're at like 1:00 and the weather's adequate, and then you get to 7:30 and the weather has gone to, you know, hell in a handbasket there. My heroes are probably going to be, I'll give again the morning kick around guys coming out and spotlighting it. I want to say JJ Williams as well, just because of what he did. My zero on the game, a little bit more of an interesting take here, but my zero on the game is the concession stands, because I struggled mightily to get into the self-service one at one point. It just wouldn't read my card. I was probably not dressed the right way for everything to work out. People were questioning it, but that was a struggle for me on the night. Luckily, people helped me, and I appreciate the staff that was there, but those gates did not want to let me in. I don't know if it's because I'm a redhead and it just didn't detect my presence, but it was a mighty struggle. And I wasn't the only one, by the way, but those self-service gates did not like me on the night. But anyways, let's get back into the match, and let's get Coach Kano on his words after the game.
Happy with the spirit, happy with the effort, happy with the fight. You've seen that a lot with our team. They just fought to the end, never gave up, kept pushing. Ultimately, it's 2 more points dropped at home. And we need to find a way to stop doing that, but we need to be ruthless, just ruthless in front of goal. Just, again, wasteful opportunities in the first half that we need to take, and the complex of the game is completely different.
We'll open it up to questions. Coach, I guess I'll just ask you a quick one. After going behind, even though it wasn't all 3 points, how does it feel to be able to get one from JJ late to keep going, the resilience from the team to be able to claw back a point there?
Yeah, it feels good. I mean, he stuck to it. I'm sure he'll be disappointed with the chance that he missed in the first half, but yeah, credit to him and the rest of the team for sticking to it.
What kind of adjustments did you make with those substitutions there when in the second half when you were trying to go to get that equalizer?
Yeah, we changed shape a little bit. We played with one holding midfielder and put Noah and Pitti as 2 10s to be more attacking, to get in between the lines. You know, strike or something, Jacob? No. Oh, okay.
Your statement was perfect.
Okay.
We'll do one more then. I guess you got Portland, going to Portland next week, another USL Cup game. You have a lot of success in this competition. What do you do to get ready for that one next weekend?
Yeah, rest and recover. That's going to be a tough game and a tough atmosphere. We have a great crowd up there, well-coached team. I know Bobby well, good friend of mine, so certainly not going to be easy. they're certainly going to be up for it, and we need to be up for it as well. But yeah, it's a competition we want to win, so we're going there to put our best foot forward.
That was Coach Kano on his thoughts on the game. Jason, he loved the spirit. He loved the intensity. We know this is a team that puts athletic ability and stamina and duration almost above everything else. But like to what he said, though, it was 2 more points dropped at home. Want to hone in on one specific thing. He mentioned that this team he didn't feel was ruthless enough on the night. And that's a hard thing for me to agree with because they are at the top of the league on shots on target. They have a considerably higher goal production than they did last season. Do you agree that it's ruthlessness? He also said it was wasteful opportunities. Definitely that there were instances, JJ skying an open net almost, the headers that were on target, but Jamal White just got his glove in the right place at the right time. Is it ruthlessness or is it wasted opportunities? I don't know if those two things mesh well together.
I think when he's using the term ruthless, I think he's meaning ruthless in front of net in that regards. You could also argue that maybe some of that comes down to mentality, right? I think that I don't want to blame anyone particular on our team, but you don't leave a man unmarked at the back of the box at the same time too, right? You've got to be mindful of the positioning there. And we kind of got caught asleep again at the wheel, and they didn't particularly have a ton more chances than we did. They were just better in that regards of taking that one chance that, we got. Ultimately, we got the tie. So you can't say that we were, incredibly wasteful. But then you go back and, you watch that first half and the amount of opportunities that we had that were maybe a little more clear cut on another day, could have been a different result. Like you said, maybe this is 2 points dropped instead of 1 gained.
I feel like we've said this a lot of times this season about it's always been a tale of 2 halves, very reminiscent of the Birmingham game, even though those were completely different results. Rhode Island FC, up until the goal that Tampa Bay scored, felt like they were just as much in the hunt for a result. And when I say result, I mean a win, just as much as Tampa was trying to get that across the board. Interesting, when you look at comparing first half to second half, felt like we kind of fell off on the back foot there. But before we go to it, you talk about the ruthlessness. I noticed that Tampa did not really engage in the high line press. They were definitely dropped to a lower block, not a low block, but they were waiting for the interception in the midfield. The battle of this matchup was definitely amongst our pivots and our midfielders and wingers. Is this something that Kano's going to have to look out for when we talk about, especially teams that are like, hey, take the ball and let's at least see what you do with it for the first kind of few touches?
Well, so at times it looked more like they were waiting for specific triggers, because there were a few moments where they were pressing our back line, but that's because we were making poor back passes and we were putting ourselves in a bad position, and they saw that opportunity and they pounced on it. But outside of that, if we were comfortable controlling the ball, they'd back off and just say, okay, we're going to wait for you guys to either come closer to us, or we're going to let one of you, make a poor back pass and try and put you in a bad position before we engage the press. I think they were trying to balance that and be a little bit more mindful with the way they press, as opposed to just running like headless, like with a chicken.
I mean, we talk about the press, we talk about the possession, pretty even across the game, 50-50. The first half, 50-50, and 51-49 on the second. But when you look at the two from half to half, shots on target, we had 4 shots on target, a total of 7. Comparing that to the second half, 4 total shots, 2 on target. So we saw a separation there. What was the difference, unless we're going to talk about it just being the substituted players? We made a few earlier subs than I think Kano's been starting to make earlier tactical subs over these last few league matches. What's been the difference then that's drawing less shots and less of what we would say maybe is that ruthlessness?
It's hard to say. There are times when we've talked about how this team feels like they are going for a battle of attrition, like they're trying to wear the other team out. But in the same vein, are they wearing themselves out and kind of getting to a position where they don't have the legs, or they don't have the mindset to go out there and go for it? We did see an impact with Nick Scardino. That was a great cross there to find JJ. That was a phenomenal header, by the way, too. But outside of that one moment, a lot of the second half there did feel a little flat. Maybe that tactical change just ultimately didn't pay dividends, switching to 210s instead of
Did you like that? Did you like the Noah Pity double pivot at the front?
I'd be willing to see more of it. However, Noah's still in that weird position where I think he's on a better trajectory than he was last year, but he's still not the 2024 Noah that we originally saw. So I think a lot of fans are still leaving wanting there for a little bit more from that end product.
Want to talk about the opening goal of the match before we go to break. Have to ask, is this, you warned us in the previous show, you told us that Tampa Bay is probably the most lethal team when it comes to cross accuracy and dangerous chances from the wings. And that's exactly what we see in a ball that goes straight to a completely unmarked Dolabella. Want to ask, is this a plus for Tampa's positioning on that secondary run of Dolabella's, or is this an F for Rhode Island failing to understand that run and not be able to defensively cover that in the spread?
Yeah, you want to give your team the benefit of the doubt and just grade on a bell curve and give them a C or something, but Tampa was smart there, and if you watch the build up to that play, they pulled our entire defense there to our left side there and just kind of left that back door open there. So I think that's just smart play by them. I don't want to be too tough on our defense there. I'll
say this though, like Cicerone and Dolabella were making problems on the right side of our defense. Quizera, Backrack both go in with not early, but just yellows in general that get them off the pitch probably sooner than either player would have wanted. Scardina as a defensive reinforcement, like it works both ways. Those players are not to be trifled with. That's why I'm just genuinely curious. They just get one extra little step in on someone, or is this something again that we have to reinforce in defensive practice on the week?
I mean, we've seen how lethal they can be from crossing. I think that maybe it's a little bit of a mental slip up from us, but at the same time, it can be both. It could also be them just being like, there's a reason they're number one in the East.
That's true. Well, we're going to go to break, and when we return, we're going to have JJ Williams comments on the match and then get to the biggest storylines from the 1-1 draw. Don't go anywhere. It's the Raising Anchor Soccer Show. Fans, as the weather becomes more and more unpredictable, be sure to check out 990 WBOB's weather page for all your temperature, storm, and travel info. Stay prepared for whatever Mother Nature has in store with the 990 WBOB weather page.
Now, let's get back to the Raising Anchor Soccer Show on 990 WBOB with Matt Entrican and Jason Carey.
All right, Jason, we're going to get into the third segment here and get JJ Williams' thoughts on the match.
All night. First of all, great service. Great service. I mean, unbelievable ball. That's what I asked for every time, was just to give me a chance. But all night they made it tough because they were doubling, and wherever I went to, they were going contact first, especially in this league with no VAR. Get away with it all the time, just going contact and not letting me jump. But on that one, the ball was so good that they spun around, and then I was able to make good contact. If I can jump with absolutely anybody, especially if I get that kind of service, like that's what I ask for every single time.
I feel like you needed that one more than, not you particularly, but the team needed that one more than normal, just because of the first 20 minutes you guys had so many chances and couldn't find it.
Absolutely. I mean, we played well tonight. We played well. We tried to correct some of those things that we struggled with last week. Getting to the ball, making tackles, making it stick. I think that we weren't as clean in possession as we would have been, especially as we won the ball and played forward. We had a lot of turnovers in the first half where we could have seen more chances, but we did well to weather the storm early and create some. But for me, I got to bury that first one. Keeper does well, but even with that, being from us conceding, doing very well at the beginning, then conceding off of a set piece, second phase a set piece, we let them off early, and then we're chasing the game the rest of the way. So we just got to clean up a couple of details, and that's a 1-0 win.
When you clean up the details, what does that final product look for you guys? We've seen it before, but this team's obviously different. What does it look like this year?
Honestly, it looks very similar. I think we have a little bit more quality and attack going forward, and we have some guys that are just a little bit more polished now, but we have quality all the way around the field, and it just looks like clean sheet goals, clean sheet goals, and then that's what I think our best version of ourselves looks like. I mean, it's very hard for us to score, or for people to score on us when we're playing well. We have the talent, and then we can score on absolutely anybody with enough time. So, I mean, we just get sharper, clean up a couple of those things on both sides of the ball, defensively, attacking wise. Nobody can stop us really.
JJ, I'll ask. You've had a lot of success here against a team you used to play for. As someone with so much experience in the USL, how does that feel?
It feels great, especially when teams let you go. It feels good to remind them what they're missing out on. It's always a good feeling. Definitely missed one in Birmingham last week for sure, but I always excited to play against old teams. But more than anything, seeing them at the top of the table, I don't really feel like we deserve to be as far down as we are, especially seeing them there. They've had a good start to the year, but we belong to be closer to the top of that table, if not at the top. So we just have to keep working on ourselves. And like I said, the best version of us needs to come out of that locker room week after week.
And you got Portland coming in next, or going to Portland next week.
Right.
How do you get ready for that one?
Just mentally staying disciplined. Just because they're a League One team doesn't mean that we should switch off any. I mean, we should prepare more and more and get better. Just no matter who our opposition is, we have to get better for us.
So that was JJ Williams. Thoughts on it? I loved his snide comment at Tampa Bay. But the thing I was most interested in was him talking about, when he's given the ability to jump and he's not immediately called for a foul because contact is made, those are the opportunities where he can convert. We've seen him battle through a lot of adversity when it comes to his attacking options inside the box. He made the comment with no VAR, he'll never get that kind of support. We've heard Kano talk at length that he's a bigger guy and he always gets chopped down. Do we think that he's going, as he gets this service and it continues to improve, are we going to see a different side of JJ in the near future? Or are we already seeing it now?
I mean, it feels like we're already seeing it. I mean, it feels that we're still fairly early on in the season. I mean, he's our Lord and Savior at this point. Like if he can stay healthy, like how many goal contributions do you think he can get this year? I mean, we're only like a third, if not, into the season.
I mean, he's leading the team in 4 across all competitions. It's his 3rd in the last 3 regular league games. He's now the all-time scoring leader at something like 25, and he's over the 50 mark in total championship goals scored. 3 goals in 3 games. Do you know where was he at last season at this time? Because there was an injury about this point that derailed him for quite a few months. Was this the same JJ that we saw this early on last year and we just had that break?
I don't think so. I mean, so if you look at his entire of last season, he had 6 goals and 1 or maybe 2 assists, depending on which stat keeper you look at that. So that's only 20 matches though, right? So there is, like you said, there was a big chunk. If we go back and look after the first 7 matches, so I should say, so this year, right, 7 matches, 3 goals, 2 assists. Last year, he only had 2 goals in his first 7 matches.
So he's beating, and he had no goals at this point in season 1 because I don't think he even played till the end of May. So it sounds like he's getting better and better with time. He's aging like a fine wine on this team. Is this going to be the thing? Because it transitions to the other part. He believes, and I think I agree with him. There's a listener question about this too, that this team doesn't really line up on the table standings for the amount of effort and the difficulty they are to beat, as well as the amount of goals that they're scoring. I mean, we talked to the morning kick around guys, and when they were like, oh, Tampa Bay's got one of the best offensive attacks in the game, and we're like, well, we've scored the same amount of goals as them, right? So, like, what does that look like in that moment in time? Is this just a product of a couple of extra draws and things not going their way, or is there one of those adjustments still that remains for Rhode Island to be a lethal team?
I mean, he had mentioned that they just need to go out of each game and try and be the best version of himself or themselves as a team. He had mentioned too the keep clean sheets, score goals. It kind of feels like we've talked about this too, where this team has a pendulum where they can be an elite defensive unit.
Clean sheet, score goals. That's the way we talk the pendulum now.
Yeah, like it's just like, can we get both of those versions of this team at the same time? Can we meld them into one complete unit? And I think as this team continues to go on, and we've seen this in last year's, they're going to get closer to that version of themselves. There might be a little bit of sacrifice. I don't know if they can become, just a 1-0 machine, and who knows if that would be that fun anyway. But but I think it's just going to take a little bit more time than maybe we were hoping for, because we saw some glimpses early on in this year compared to the previous year. So I think a lot of us thought that maybe they were already there.
I mean, we talk about that too. We ask, is this the real deal? If I was to paint with a silver lining here, I think one of the most important things that I took away from it is, again, we were only one of 3 teams, and I think it's now only a total of 4 goals that have been scored against Tampa Bay. To me, the overlying, while the offense, it took a while to get online for the night and get that goal, they did never give up, to Kano's point. They fought with grit, and they scored against one of the best defenses in the league. If you had to also, use rose-tinted glasses here to say something kind about this group and give fans the faith that this is going in the right direction, what's your takeaway from this match then on the night?
Yeah, I think it just really shows their, just to steal some of their sayings, that the never say die that this team has in them. I
think you owe them like 5 cents now for using it, but yeah.
I'll mail them some quarters or something, but they've got belief in themselves. They have that never die mentality where they just keep going to the very end, and to see them come back, especially it's been a while for them to be able to claw back a point. Ultimately, it was very impressive, even though maybe on the night it felt a little frustrated that could have gone our way if we maybe scored earlier on.
So then, we talk about the stats, we talk about the importance of not losing to a team like this and continuing to at least take points, even if we don't climb in the table. From the eyeball test, from the vibes check, how did this match overall? I know we kind of started the conversations with what did you take away from this? Going to circle back now that we've spent almost 40 minutes talking about it. How did this game hit you from a perspective and a feelings?
In the feelings, I think it's more of we're not going in the wrong direction, but there's still some work to be done. I'm not maybe as, there's definitely part of it to think that, this is one of the best teams in the league, if not the best. So to salvage a draw against them, I will take that. As much as I want to say it's 2 points lost, we didn't turn up when we needed to. So
I agree. Well, we're going to go to our final break, and when we return, don't go anywhere, because it's the mailbag coming up next on the Raising Anchor Soccer Show.
Now, let's get back to the Raising Anchor Soccer Show on 990 WBOB with Matt Entrican and Jason Carey.
All right, first one here. Sarah H. Is there a point in the schedule that you feel like things will start to roll in Rhode Island's favor? Are we already through the toughest portion?
It's an interesting question. It's hard to say, because I know there were some early games where we thought we should have some more points by now, and I still agree. I think we should have probably 5 more points at this point in the season, which would put us in that 3rd or 4th place positioning. As for toughness, the weird thing is that this league is so compact in its parity right now that the teams that you don't think, maybe like Birmingham, caught me by surprise. Like Birmingham might actually be a good team. Do the results show that on the standings? No, they're right ahead of us in 9th. Loudoun historically has been a boogeyman for us. They're not doing great at all this season, but they're going to have longer time to get it figured out, to where can we say Loudoun is going to be a pushover team by the end of the season? It's really hard to say. I feel like when I look at the teams that we still have to go through, I think for us, and it's less the opponents and it's more because there will be a World Cup break for the team. They won't be completely off, but there will be time that they can spend, not like almost kind of like a pseudo break. We've been able to confirm some of that. I look at it more as like the July 4th through probably August 1st. You've got Orange County. They're at the top of the table in the Western Conference. You've got SAC. They're always a contender. Then you've got the Derby in Hartford Athletic, which they've only lost one time this season. Then you've got Pittsburgh, another team we've never done well against. And then you got Birmingham Legion. And so if you want to expand it past that, Colo Spigs, I'm not really tracking where they are on the Western Conference right now, but another team we don't do well against. And then guess what? We're right back to Tampa Bay. So, I mean, I think July 4th through, July through August basically could be the sink or swim for the week or for the season. But I also don't know where these teams will be after their own breaks. It's hard to determine how that could look and which teams will continue to gain momentum and which teams will implode.
You throw Brooklyn in there, a team we've never played that we're going to play 3 times this season. So like, what does that even look like?
I mean, we have basically, if you think about it, right, we have 5 games left before the World Cup break. And I know we play on while the World Cup is on, but if you really look up until that June 13th Loudoun away game, it's Indy 11 and it's Brooklyn. I'm not talking Brinks Cup because Brinks is a different setup. Yeah. Brooklyn's not doing bad. Like they win games that people kind of write them off from, and then they lose games that people like, how did you lose the game that poorly? And then Indy's just quietly one of those teams that's like a annoying persistence, but they're ahead of us in the table, so they've got to be doing something right. I don't think there's any easy games this season. I just don't see it. Maybe we can get something out of the Monterey result, maybe something out of the Sporting Jacks. But I mean, we end the season with Pittsburgh and then Hartford. So like, where do we make that decision, Sarah? I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Any thoughts before we move on?
No, I think you're right. I think this is one of those seasons where there really isn't any easy games. And we could even look back at when Louisville's not doing so good right now, but they already beat us once this year. So that's, 3 points we can't get back.
Right. Joe P writes in, well, this was a match that RFC could have won in the first 25 minutes. They just could not capitalize on their opportunities, and it led to the mirror image goals by both teams, which then led to a draw. Again, we play well against teams in the upper side of the table, but seem to play at the level of lower table teams.
I mean, I kind of, to a certain extent, echo some of that sentiment, Joe. I think also Jamali Waite is a good goalkeeper. That save early on from a go back rack. I mean, I don't know if there's a lot more you could have done except for like nail that into the top corner, basically replicate what, JJ did at the end of the game. But yeah, I get the frustration, but like we just talked about when we're looking at the rest of our opponents, that this is where this team is either going to make or break this year. If they cannot learn to play consistently well against every team, then we're not going to have a good time. Eric R here says, should we feel good about this result against Tampa? I'm glad we didn't lose, but I felt like we could have won.
Similar thoughts to Joe's comments. I don't disagree. The problem is that the goal we gave up was pretty quick to do some damage to Rhode Island. And like JJ even said, once this team starts chasing, it's really hard to feel good that we're going to get back into the game. It feels like we can feel comfortable anticipating a potential equalizer. We saw us get an equalizer against Birmingham, but Kano, especially when he starts to chase, he takes a lot of risks, and usually those games start to unwind against our favor if we don't get that equalizer or we don't get the go-ahead goal. So I don't know that I ever felt like we could have won against Tampa because we didn't score the first goal, or we didn't hold on for the 0-0 and then get something, going our way where it was almost close and we almost could have had it. I feel good with the 1-1. I feel like it was more important for us to not continue to be on the narrative of being a team that would lose to Tampa. We definitely couldn't have afforded 0 points on this match. And I think it's just disappointing knowing we were so close that it feels good to say we could have gotten 3. But I think also everyone should held their high. I can't talk anymore, dude.
Hold their heads
Hold
high.
them high and just be happy that they got a point, because this is still something they can build upon for the remainder of the season ahead. And when we go to Tampa, maybe something will go a different direction for us. Brian P writes in, home playoff spot. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I feel like that has been fading for a while now. We also just talked about earlier in the match how there are 5 teams on 13 points. So we're really not that far behind. And if it continues to show that maybe this season has a lot of parity, maybe this is one of those years where you can sneak in with a lower point spread, especially if Charleston and Louisville are not the same teams they were last year. I'm not going to say it's a 0 chance, but I wouldn't be betting on it at this point.
I mean, I look at the teams that we have to go through to get those points back, and it just dawned on me we haven't even played Pittsburgh yet, and we're going to have to go through them twice to get ahead of them at some point. Obviously, some things can go their way, but there are a lot of good teams that we have yet to see.
They seem the one to have just continued on playing their version of Haram ball, and it's just, classic Pittsburgh, of course.
What's the next question?
Rachel M says here, I went to go look at how other teams are doing. We have fewer losses than most teams. It's just all these draws again. We need wins.
Don't disagree, Rachel. There's sometimes you write a question in or you make a statement and yep, I agree 100%. We need wins. Jason, it's that simple. We need wins. We have not lost a lot of matches. We just seem to not be able to convert in the last minute to get that goal that we need, or we're clawing one back, and we just have to be okay with that.
It's Draw King's DNA. It's part of our destiny. It makes up every fiber of our being.
We'll have to see. Brad L writes in, what was with the monk costumes, guys? And before you answer, Brad, I'm just appreciative that you didn't call us a Jedi like several people did. So appreciate you. So someone actually asked if we worked for the Friars, by the way. I don't know if I told you. They're like, oh, are you guys here representing the Providence Friars? Like, nope, we are just doing something silly.
Yeah, we're just celebrating someone's birthday, and it was their decision to have us all wear Friar costumes. So we were just being silly, having a good time.
Peace be with you, my friends.
Yeah.
All right, final question of the night. Sam S. It feels like attendance is getting worse and worse. Is it just the bad weather, or is it something else going on?
Oh man, didn't I mention like multiple pods ago that when you were having your voice moment that we are not a socioeconomic podcast, but also, oh man, I filled up my car with gas the other day. I mean, also the weather is not helping, but I think there's a lot of us out here that are broke as a joke. So I don't know if that's playing into it at all. People are making game time decisions on whether or not they should go. It was also Mother's Day weekend. Like traffic was bad on a lot of the freeways, not just because there's like a bridge missing, but also because people were going out of town, doing other things. The unfortunate reality is that, this team does have to fight for our attention against a lot of other things in our life. They have to continue to build up the amount of sickos that are just going to go either way. And as that over time continues to grow, I think they're going to be okay. It's just, maybe the stars didn't align this weekend for us.
The way I look at it is there are roughly, I know of, there are at least 3,500 to 4,000 season ticket member fans that exist today. And so those are the people that have made a commitment to come to every single match, at least financially. Those people are also the same group that can then say, well, I'm going to 17 home matches for the year. So if there's a game, whether it's due to the weather or it's due to other things going on in the area, that I'm going to skip out on a game, that's one thing that you have to take into account. And then the second thing is yeah, like right now, we don't have 25 years of soccer community built where people know that this is a thing, that they're going to go no matter what to support. There's a lot of casuals that still exist out there right now that continue to try the product, or they do it when they can. And so I don't blame fans that are going to go to 3 games in a year to not wait until it's the best, weather possible to go out on a night out. I'm not angry at that. The responsibility of creating the sickos, to your point, takes time. And so when that time, if we're 15 years down the road and we're saying that it's a 7,000 sellout or 7,000 tickets into the building, and we know that there was significantly less and it was because of rain, then we're going to have to assess something, or maybe that awning's been built by then. But
every time we mention the awning, it gets pushed back
another year.
Yeah.
But like, I'm not angry at it because the club is still getting the tickets, and whether they're going through the turnstile or not, they're still getting the money for it. So I think it's not something. I feel like Sam's question is like, are we not doing well? And I disagree with that. And Sam, if we got that wrong, write back into the show. and put a little bit more explanation on why you asked it that way. But I have no feeling whatsoever that this is anything other than just rain and a combination of other things like Mother's Day. I expect when we get to the first fireworks games, as long as it stops raining, that we are going to see sold out crowds inside Centerville Bank Stadium. So, all right. Well, hey, that's the show. It's been fun. Hopefully in the week to come, we'll be able to preview and have some guests on for Brinks Cup action against the Hearts of Pine. And we can't wait to see everyone on the road heading up to Portland. It's going to be a blast. But Jason, one last time.
Catch y'all next time. Anchors up.
Anchors up.
You've been listening to the Raising Anchor Soccer Show. You can follow the show on Twitter, Threads, Blue Sky, and TikTok at RIFC Podcast and at Raising Anchor on Instagram. And be sure to check out and subscribe to Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, or wherever you listen by searching for Raising Anchor. Make sure to check out all of our coverage over at the Blazing Musket for all your New England soccer coverage, including RAFC news at theblazingmusket.com. Fans, we thank you for listening. We ask you to be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the show. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm your main man, Juju, and on behalf of the Raising Anchor crew, goodbye for now. And as always, we are Rhode Island FC.